Hey everybody, it's Mike here from The Art of Guitar. I'm here today with a real casual video, just real low key. I did a video a couple days ago about this acoustic electric guitar from Fender that I'm sending back, and I'm still waiting for the next one to show up. I'll do a video on that once it does. But in the video, I mentioned something that I like to call the oh shit bag. And the reason I call it that is it's an emergency bag for gigs. And the first thing I always find myself saying whenever something goes wrong is, oh shit, so it just fits. This bag is a result of over 3 decades of playing live. So anything that's ever gone wrong, I made sure that I was able to fix it with something in this bag. Fix it or replace it. And it's funny because this bag might seem a little extensive, but it's nowhere near what I've seen in the past. I have a bass player friend who used to bring a suitcase that rolled, one of those kind, and he opened it up one time because my amp wasn't working, and he pulled out fuses. I'm like, this guy's got everything in here. So yeah, I don't have fuses or deodorant or toothbrushes like he did, but let's check out what's in my bag. Now, when I bring this to shows, I do not Velcro this like that. I was just being fancy for the video. You need quick access to this thing because it's, for emergencies. So this particular bag, it's an ADJ bag because I got it when I was in my lighting phase. So that's American DJ. Had all these crazy lights, but I ended up giving them all to my friend because I got so sick of all that stuff. But I kept some of the bags, and this one's really great. It has 2 pockets, one on each side, and a huge middle section, so it can hold a lot of stuff. First, let's start off with the side pockets. These are the things that I'm gonna need most of the time in emergencies. These are the quick grabs, I call them. Do not forget the duct tape. So right off the bat, we have a pack of strings, actually a couple packs of strings. So one's 10 gauge, the other's 9.5. We have batteries. These are going to be AAA batteries, and this is for my tuner that's on my pedal board. I like to use these, or I have to use those. This is something I also keep in my guitar cases. This is just a little Swiss Army knife of tools that you're going to need. It has, everything from Allen wrenches to standard and Phillips screwdriver type stuff. That comes in handy more than almost everything. Make sure you have one of those. Now, this seems weird because you wouldn't think you'd have to bring an extra strap, but I've played gigs before where I show up and I realize I packed my strap in a different case. So this is just in case I do that again. One time we played this art museum and I was playing bass and I forgot my strap and I had to sit down the whole time. And the drummer gave me crap the entire time. Okay, and more batteries. This is going to be the 9-volt. Be sure to have a couple different versions of batteries because you're never really sure what's going to go wrong. If you have an electric acoustic, this is going to come in handy. Some things I never thought about before, but we have nail clippers. Sometimes you're playing a show and you get a weird hangnail or just something feels really, weird with your fingernails. This is going to help you out quite a bit. As a guitar player, you know how important it is to keep your fretting hand fingernails tidy. Look, another battery. This one's for the Snark tuner that I sometimes use with the mandolin. Sometimes in the Heartless band, the Heart Tribute band, I use that. So don't want to lose that. You never know when you're going to need to replace a Snark battery. Luckily, a Snark slowly dims over time, so you can kind of tell when the battery's getting low. And then once you put a new battery in, it's like, bam, super bright. I think everybody knows that feeling. Okay, we only have 3 things left in this pocket. So this is very important for musicians, especially over time. Extra earplugs. I wear earplugs all the time, and I think that's why I still have decent hearing after all these years of playing live. Even back in the metal band days, I used earplugs. But I always keep an extra pair because sometimes someone in the crowd is like, oh man, they're out there dying, and you could just give them some earplugs if you want. This is pretty obvious. I usually leave a lot in my pockets or my guitar cases, but I just threw a couple of picks in here because I've had shows before where I run low and I check my little baby pocket in my pants and there's nothing there and I get a little panicky, but I just made sure to pack a couple of picks if that ever happens. And then even though I have that Swiss Army tool, I still bring an extra Allen wrench. The size that's perfect for my locking, nut system on my guitar. And I usually put one in my wallet too. So I kind of double up on Allen wrenches. The worst feeling ever was when my guitar was out of tune and I went for an Allen wrench just to fix it and I didn't have one. So I had to be slightly out of tune with my high E string the rest of the show. It was a bummer. It's funny talking about all these because those were my most desperate moments and that's what will make you prepare for those kind of things going on. So that's why this might seem a little bit over the top. But when you start playing live, I think you're going to find out that this is, actually pretty minimal. Okay, the other side pocket. This is just a towel. As my friend called it, a rock towel. And on those hot gigs, man, if you don't have one of these, you're like wiping sweat off your face, off your arms. Sometimes you use your t-shirt, it gets kind of nasty. So I like to pack an extra, towel just to kind of do that and then throw it out to the crowd. Just kidding. In the Heart Tribute Band, I do have to use a capo, so I just pack an extra one. This is my least favorite design of a capo. I have other ones that are a little bit less pressure, so it doesn't change your tuning so much, but this one locks on. It's the grip of death. But in an emergency, you'll take whatever. Oh, look at that. That's probably left over from the last show. Oops. The next item I packed because my friend was playing live one time. He was playing keyboards. And he's a crazy guy. He took a mic stand and he bashed his keyboard a little bit on accident, and the keys broke. And then he went to do a big slide with his hand, and he cut his fingers open. And man, he needed more than a Band-Aid, but I packed Band-Aids. He needed a towel. He needed a rock towel and the Band-Aids for that occasion. Extra patch cables. I do use a pedal board, and my pedal board's kind of different because if you saw my video, I have a pedal switcher, but you still need to link up the pedals to the pedal switcher with cables. So I just bring a couple extra. These work really well because they're thin. They can bend and conform to whatever you need. I should get some longer ones actually, but these have gotten me out of trouble a few times. It's a huge bummer when you're at a pretty big show. In my case, it was a wedding and I was getting paid a lot to do like a DJing type thing, and I was missing an adapter. One little tiny adapter can derail your entire thing, especially if it's in like an out-of-town show where you can't just run somewhere and pick something up. So I make sure I have a 1/4 inch to 1/8 inch adapter. And then I also have the opposite. So I have the female 1/4 inch to the male 1/8 inch. And then I also now bring this, which is a USB-C to 1/8 inch. So it's kind of like a headphone type thing. But sometimes your band's running backing tracks. Sometimes, your friend's using an iPad of some kind. And this kind of thing could get them out of trouble. And then the last thing on the side pocket is just a Sharpie. Because there have been many times where like we get done playing and somebody who liked the band grabs the set list and like, oh, I wish somebody in the band could sign this, It's not always the case. Sometimes you have to write out your set list by hand. There's a lot of reasons to have a Sharpie. I suggest having a black one and a silver one, just for different circumstances, I have signed a boob before, so there's that. Felt like a rock star. Okay, now the center pocket. This is for the big stuff, and I think a few things are going to surprise you. Maybe not, though. Oh, you always need Nancy Wilson's shoe, of course. That's in there because whenever we play the Heart Band, the Heart Tribute Band, I always bring this. It's kind of like our mascot sitting in the middle of the stage, so that's not weird or anything. Do not forget the duct tape. Okay, some major cableage now. I have a speaker cable. Don't get this confused with a regular guitar cable because one time my bass player from my teenage metal band, Corey, we were playing at 7th Street Entry and his speaker cable melted, literally melted. So I always bring one because of that. I've never had an issue with speaker cables for myself, but I always think of Corey whenever I grab this thing. Okay, I call these AC cables, even though there's a real name for them, but this would plug into, say, my pedal board or my amp into the wall. There was one show, I think it was on a boat, but it was with a country band. And I needed one of those cables because the one that I had went bad. And we actually had to take it from somebody's computer. So it was back in the day when Macs were like towers, and in the back you had the same kind of cable. I had to steal one from the guy's computer to make the night happen. A microphone cable, just in case. They always go bad if you're using your own PA system and you're short one microphone cable. It sucks. Bring one. All right, we have an outlet power strip right here. This comes in handy quite a bit because sometimes you're setting up and you're next to another musician and they're like, oh man, I need an extra plug. So you can just plug this into what you're plugged into and you've got 6 more to go. So that's kind of cool. Of course, you need regular guitar cables, just 1/4 inch cables. And you might want to get a longer one and a shorter one. Just because, it sucks when you're playing and all of a sudden you need a long cable and you don't have one. I always think of Creedence Clearwater Revival. It drives me crazy when I see John Fogerty in this footage playing with this really short curly cable, and I keep thinking he's going to pull the head from his amp off or something. It's an OCD thing for me. All right, so you can always use an extra extension cable. I recommend also getting an extension cable with a 3-prong. This is just a 2-prong. I usually have a 3-pronger, but that's in the other room right now. I forgot to grab it off the desk. This should have been in the side pocket, but I believe I used it and just threw it in the middle just in haste, but just another clip-on tuner. Now, I have multiple ways to tune with my setup. My wireless actually has a tuner built into it, but I have a tuner on my pedal board, and if all goes wrong, I can always just borrow somebody else's tuner. But I always try to plan for the worst, so you never know. You know, you can give it to someone in your band if they need one in a hurry, or I could use this for the mandolin, because sometimes that slips out of tune too. Okay, don't forget to bring a one spot to your gig. Something inevitably goes wrong, and sometimes you have to just take one pedal, maybe your distortion pedal as just the only one you're going to use. And let's say you're using a pedal power system. You don't want to have to, detach everything. So just bring one of these and you can hook up that one pedal for the rest of the show. This is if things go nuclear on you. I bring this kind of cheaper direct box because if you have keyboards in your band or you have some sort of tracks that you use or anything that would require a direct box, even a bass player too. I bring one of these just in case. Let's say we're using our own PA system and something goes wrong. You can go directly into the board through this and get the optimum sound. If you only play electric guitar, you may have no use for this thing. But I bring one for sure because we have acoustic players in the Heart Tribute Band. We have a keyboardist. We have a lot of reasons why we could use one of these things. I bring an alternate Boss adapter because sometimes the one spot doesn't work for every single pedal. So if let's say somebody comes up and steps on the edge of my board, which has happened before. People are dancing, they, step over the monitor and sometimes their foot can clip your board. Well, it's easy to bend the adapter connection and that could really mess it up. So let's say the end gets messed up on my pedal switcher. I could just rip it out, toss a new one on there and everything's good again. Those drunk dancers, you really got to watch out for them. Or band members sometimes too. Okay, only a few things left. Because I bring an extra mic cable, I figure I might as well bring an extra microphone. And I needed sort of a do-all microphone, a microphone for all purposes. It could be for vocals, it could be for an acoustic guitar, maybe for a guitar amp. So guess which mic I use? The Shure 57. It's funny because this thing has pretty much stayed the same price ever since I started, in the music business. And it seems to be the most versatile mic. Because I've seen people mic up their entire drum kits with 57s before. You could put it in front of an acoustic, like I said. It's okay for that. Live, it's great. You can use it as a vocal microphone, even though the 58 is a little bit more accepted for that, I should say. So make sure if you have a backup microphone, it's a Shure 57, and these things are really indestructible. This thing is solid. And of course, don't forget to bring an extra mic clip because, obviously using it with a mic is one thing. Even though you can hang this from a cable down to your speaker if you have to for your guitar amp cabinet, you're most of the time going to need a mic clip. Plus it's good to have an extra one of these anyway. It's like a drummer with an extra drum key. It's just have another one around somewhere. These microphone bags are gold, by the way, too. I should put my picks and stuff in there too, actually. Do not forget the duct tape. Okay, I think I only have one thing left. Now the last thing I'll talk about I packed because one time I think I heard an interview from Zakk Wylde, and it might have been him or Jerry Cantrell, and they said always pack a backup rig. Actually, it might have been Slash. Doesn't matter. But it's because your amp head can go bad on you. And yes, even your modeler could explode. A lot of things can happen. I'm still going to make that video about why I stopped using my Kemper Live, but that'll have to wait for another day. So I imagine the worst possible thing happening, my amp just exploding. Maybe the tube goes out, maybe a fuse, who knows what happened. So I picked one of these up. And it's still in the box, even though I took it out and tried it out just to make sure it worked. It's a Quilter. This is not a paid advertisement, by the way. Get a hold of me, Quilter, if you want to do something, but this is a freebie. So it's called the Quilter Super Block, and it's just a last-ditch thing that I could use if my amp explodes. So I can actually do one line out on it. In the back, you actually have effects returns and sends. You plug into it, there's a headphone. It takes a power source, so that's good that I packed that. I think it actually has it it has it in the box too. And basically with this line out, you could just send it right to the board and then they could send that to your monitor. But you could also send it out to your cabinet, which is huge for me. This is the reason I went with this, because I could do anything in a pinch. So it's funny that I can replace my entire Engel head, this huge head, with this little tiny thing. So anyway, it's got basically all the dials that you would have on an amp, just little tiny ones in a row. And there's also voice things that you could do, cabinet simulator. So if you're just sending it right to the front of the house, you can make it sound like it's going through a cabinet. Otherwise, it'll sound like Nine Inch Nails distortion guitar. and then of course just the power switch. Now I haven't had to use this live yet, but what I want to do is make a video about if my amp exploded, how this would sound compared to what I'm used to with my Engel head. I think that would be a really fun video, so keep an eye out for that. I'm getting all these video ideas as I make this. So knowing I have that quilter in here saves a lot of pressure. I don't have to bring a backup amplifier like I used to do. I used to actually bring a PV Bandit. And even though that thing's not huge and you can kind of carry it, you know, as you're walking, it's still a trip to the car. And it's still extra weight, extra space in the back seat that maybe I don't want to use up. Maybe I want to bring my bass player with me. Who knows? But to replace it with this little quilter and have it in a little box like that is just the way I want to go. Okay, so that's everything in my emergency backup case, which I call the oh shit bag. So if you have one yourself, let me know if I forgot anything that you've run into that you've needed in an emergency. It's always great to learn from other people's horror stories. And I hope you could learn from the few horror stories that I told you about today that have happened to me that resulted in me getting one of these bags. The best case scenario is that you never need to dig into the oh shit bag. But if you play for any extended period of time live, something's going to go wrong. So make sure you have one of these. Okay, everyone, we'll catch you later. Thank you. Bye-bye.